Okay, hit the lights. Now here's our first stop in New Orleans. This is Superdome coming up, and well, that's just a news van going by there.
For generations, WVUE has been going places, chronicling life in New Orleans and beyond.
In Mexico City.
We're the third station in Louisiana.
Highly regarded journalists who helped build the station made their mark here.
What do you think about Alec Gifford?
I think he's great. I think he's a wonderful newscaster, too.
The past 60 years has seen this station cover all the news, including disasters.
Any chance that anybody's alive on that airplane, you think?
Oh, if they're alive, they're not being honest.
Hurricanes.
We are standing on the levee wall here on Golden Meadow.
Investigations.
We have some questions for you, Mr. Bennett. We've been trying to get an interview.
And our beloved New Orleans Saints.
He is crazy tonight.
We celebrate WVUE's 60th anniversary. Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Parker. From News Scene 8 to Fox 8, WVUE's commitment to journalistic integrity and being there for our viewers has never wavered. Each decade brought coverage of change with the backdrop of this amazing city's culture. For the next hour, we'll take a look back at some unforgettable memories.
Honey, did you call the Merces?
Yeah, they said they'd be right over.
Good.
Well, there they are.
Wait till you tell them.
I Love Lucy was a hit 60 years ago when New Orleans welcomed its newest station.
Big surprise for you.
Tell them, honey.
November 1st, 1953, WJMR signed on. Channel 61, both a CBS and an ABC affiliate. Times were simpler then.
Why don't you give this brand a whirl? New Instant Sanker Coffee. Here's an instant coffee fit for the man in the house.
In February of 1959, the station changed its call letters to WVUE. In 1962, WVUE was broadcasting its signal on Channel 12. A couple of years later,
A Screen Gems presentation.
Screen Gems, the television arm of Columbia Pictures, bought the station.
What is your name? My name is for my friends.
And brought with it hours of old movies. Popular local shows like Johnny's Follies and Romper Room with Miss Linda kept New Orleans area kids entertained. But the station had something big in store for viewers. There was a switch coming, a big switch. On June 8, 1970, WVUE moved its signal from Channel 12 to Channel 8.
Channel 12, the ABC affiliate, has become 8. No, the grammar is correct. Channel 12 has become 8. Channel 8, the big 8.
There was an enormous push to get viewers to change the dial, from city buses to newspaper ads and TV interviews.
What does this mean to you?
Well, I think it's a great idea if I say so myself.
Everyone was getting the message, even kids.
You watch the news?
Yes, sir.
Who's your favorite newsman?
Alec Gifford.
You gonna make the switch?
Yeah, I'm gonna make it, man. We're waiting at 8 o'clock, you know. What is it? June 8th?
Yeah, Monday,
8 o'clock. Click, click, click. I got it, man.
Oh, thank you.
I'm ready for it, man.
An informational video, sort of a spoof on the old Laugh-In show, helped explain the technical details to the public.
The educational station was given the Channel 12 tower and transmitter. WVUE built a new tower nearby and took over the Channel 8 transmitter. Above all, the switchover represents an increase in WVUE's coverage area. The future for WVUE on 8 is great, and the key to New Orleans is 8. Channel 8, the big 8 in New Orleans.
To get people to make the switch, WVUE enticed viewers with the movie The Naked Jungle. Stars Charlton Heston and Eleanor Parker portrayed characters in South America whose land was threatened by a 20-mile-long column of army ants.
Our contract Marriage by proxy is not an uncommon way to get a wife in the jungle. Only you were uncommon. How did my brother find you?
He advertised in the New Orleans papers.
The plan was simple. Get viewers hooked on the movie that started airing on Channel 12. But in order to see how it ended, you had to switch to Channel 8. Then Mayor Moon Landrieu helped flip the transmitter switch.
It means a better picture for all viewers.
Now, with a more powerful signal, WVUE was ready to lead the city into the future. And at the helm of the news operation was local news icon Alec Gifford.
Edwin Edwards was #1 in the race for governor of Louisiana, and he was also #1 in the race to get to Mexico City.
Few newsmen could deliver a news story like Alec Gifford. He was one of the great newsmen, wasn't he?
He was. The word legend is used loosely, but it is definitely applicable to Alec Gifford. He was indeed a legend.
He earned viewers' respect and gained their trust.
You like Alec Gifford?
I sure do. That's my main man on the news.
And New Orleans was the only real home he knew. Born in 1927 in Jacksonville, Florida, Gifford's family moved to New Orleans when he was just a boy. His father was a newspaper reporter in those early days. News was in Alec's blood.
When they made Alec Gifford, they broke the mold because he was a natural-born newsman.
Gifford graduated from Jesuit in 1945. After a stint in the Navy and time at Johns Hopkins, he followed his calling. His first TV news gig in 1955 was with WDSU. After 10 years there and a brief stint in New York, Gifford came home and made the switch in 1967 as managing editor and anchor of WVUE's evening newscast. He became news director less than a year later.
And so when the plane arrived, the people found Edwin Edwards waiting for them to shake their hands and say, "Bienvenido to Mexico."
Alec Gifford traveled around the world to bring the stories home to viewers.
What exactly are you hoping to accomplish by this trip, Governor Edwards?
We want to promote Louisiana and Mexican tourism trade.
During his 13-year career at WVUE, he hired some of the most notable names in local news, including Norman Robinson, Richard Angelico, Bob Krieger, Lee Stevenson, Lynn Ganser, and Fernell Chapman, the first African-American TV news reporter in the city.
You'll be
African-American TV news reporter in the city.
You'll be watching Alec Gifford at 10 o'clock.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alec's the best.
Working alongside Alec Gifford were two other local icons.
Why do the people of New Orleans turn to News Scene 8?
We like the personalities of the Channel 8 news team.
As far as, like I say, news coverage, they cannot come any better than Alec Gifford on Channel 8.
Buddy DeLaBoyd is good in sports, and I enjoy sports. Alec gives you a full line of the news, and you get a good weather report from Nash Roberts.
News Scene 8 with Alec Gifford, Buddy DeLaberto, and Nash Roberts, weeknights at 6 and 11.
It's habit forming, I guess, once you start looking at it.
Chief meteorologist Nash Roberts came to WVUE after 22 years of working across town. He brought his maps and magic marker with him and his straightforward style to forecasting the weather.
With the state of the art as it is today, I don't believe anybody's in a position to decide whether it's going to be a slow season or a very active season.
Nash Roberts was already one of the best and helped make WVUE better.
I was trained to forecast weather, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're able to do it in New Orleans. The other thing that really helps me is that I'm a native.
Doing sports for WVUE in the early days was none other than New Orleans native Buddy DeLaberto, better known as Buddy D. He graduated from Jesuit High School and Loyola University and then enlisted in the Army and served during the Korean War. Buddy was wounded by enemy fire while on assignment with a team of journalists working for Edward R. Murrow's See It Now broadcast. He was awarded a Purple Heart. He started covering sports for the Times-Picayune in 1951 and then joined WVUE as sports director in April 1966. He covered all the sports from Saints football.
Billy, you've had a chance to look at some of the new fellas coming in. What about Burrow, #1 choice?
Well, he's a good athlete. There's no doubt about it.
To basketball.
What about the patience now? Having coached pros, obviously the college players can't do what the pros can do, and you didn't have a lot of patience with the pro players.
Well, that means I might have patience with the college players.
He reported on the really big sporting events that came to town.
This is bigger than 4 Super Bowls. This is bigger than the World Series. The
Indianapolis 500. Ain't nothing as big as me.
And he even had a little fun while on the job. Sadly, we've lost all three of these great news icons, but we treasure their memories and thank them for helping build a strong foundation at Channel 8. The 70s was the decade New Orleans began its love affair with its new NFL team, the Saints, and got one of its biggest assets, the New Orleans Superdome.
All of the facilities that would be needed for accommodating a football game will be available.
I feel sorry for it, but I can't park. I got look.
The French Market was undergoing major renovations that left a mess on Decatur.
I'm a waiter on Decatur. I can really cuss a fuss. I'm a potato. All my coffee's getting cold, and my donuts can't be sold. Customers pass by and cry, hey, we'll see you later.
WVUE's reporting corps throughout the 70s became big names in the business. The staff, handpicked by Alec Gifford, names and faces you may remember.
This is Norman Robinson for News CNET.
Bob Krieger, Channel 12 News, Baton Rouge.
This is Fernell Chapman, Channel 8 News.
It was Fernell Chapman's first reporting job, but he remembers it as more. It was history.
WVUE was sort of a strange composite, largely through the making of Alec Gifford. He pulled a young African American just out of college and put him on the air. That was me.
Chapman was the first African American reporter in the city of New Orleans and quite possibly the state.
It was Lily White.
News director Alec Gifford gave the St. Aug grad and honor graduate from Xavier University a chance.
Charge that you're bending over backwards for Jim Garrison, that you're Garrison's man. Well, Fernell, there is no proof whatsoever.
Judge Ozer says he will seek Garrison's support, which could possibly win the election.
Alec Gifford hired me because he had the foresight to, and the moral conscience, I guess, as well, to tell the city, we need a rainbow of people when it comes to presenting facts and telling the city what's going on within it.
Chapman became a full-time reporter at WVUE in the racially charged year of 1968. Gifford told him,
putting an African American on television is maybe not the best thing to do right now in these times, in these critical, tumultuous times. But we will. We're going to give it a try and see how it goes.
It was slow going, a painful journey through uncharted waters.
I was merely a voice for about 6 months. I was never seen on television. I was heard. Got to the point where it was sort of like a game. Almost every day, I would walk into the news director's office and say, today? Meaning, am I going to appear on television today? And Alec would shake his head and say no. And that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Finally, one day, he walked into the newsroom at my desk and said, today is the day. And I did my first stand-up and appeared on television for the first time.
About what all this might mean to his political career in the future.
Is that under investigation now? I would say yes.
Gifford took chances on other reporters, too.
This packet of seeds is from the Crotalaria plant. They are often found in shipments of soybeans and corn.
Richard Angelico was working on the waterfront as a longshoreman when he found the idea of television news interesting. He interviewed with Gifford.
He reached into his briefcase and yanked out just a handful of articles he cut out of the newspaper and literally just threw them at me and said, here, go rewrite these for television.
He got the job.
He said, can you start tomorrow? I said, yeah, I can start tomorrow. And he said, good. I need you to be the 11 p.m. producer.
Angelico was in front of the camera about a year later with hard-hitting investigative reports.
This is Richard Angelico. The FBI says they shot the wrong man.
Alec, was a really high-strung guy, and he worked 24 hours a day. And Bob Krieger used to joke. He said, Alec doesn't have an ulcer, but he's a carrier. Because because Alec would get right on top of you, man. He'd want to, what are you going to do this? Did you do that? Okay, you wrote that. Okay, you going to write this? Okay, you did that. Oh, did you ask him this, that, and on and on and on.
Ironically, the federal government under the Nixon administration has declared war on two major home fronts: organized crime and pollution.
He won numerous awards for his work and exposed mobsters and criminals.
News Scene 8 has learned that numerous police officers in the Accident and Investigation Division are now under investigation by the FBI for their alleged role in falsifying accident reports and accepting referral fees from local attorneys.
Channel 12, Channel 8 was where I learned the business and honed my skills and worked with some of the finest newsmen I ever met.
WVUE introduced a new breed of reporter, the action reporter.
Now maybe, just maybe, there's a chance we can help you with a problem. If you think so, all you have to do is write to me about it. Simply write to Action Reporter, WVUE, Channel 8, New Orleans.
Ed Martin joined the station in 1968. He tackled all sorts of problems for viewers, from how to quit smoking to how to protect yourself from becoming a crime victim.
Mr. Bob Denny, who lives at 935 Edenbourne Avenue in Metairie, has a problem. That car is his problem.
He gained viewers' confidence.
Residents throughout the neighborhood claim that this street is in pretty bad condition. Today we investigate and would like to show you what we found.
Martin did much more than get potholes filled and abandoned cars towed. He helped some children find homes.
We have been deluged with phone calls since your program. We've gotten more response to your program than to any other effort we have made to recruit foster homes. And we cannot thank you all enough.
It's highly satisfying to know that people here in New Orleans are responsive to the needs of other people.
The state legislature has reached the halfway mark in its 1970 session, during which it must consider some 3,000 legislative things, including everything but shoes and ships and sealing wax and cabbages and kings.
News director Alec Gifford took more risk in building his staff, giving another first-time newsman a shot, a college English professor.
He pulled a teacher out of the classroom, Bob Krieger, who was probably one of the best TV writers this town has ever seen.
The state capitol, rocked by a bomb prior to the opening of the 1970 legislative session, but since recovered, will no doubt be in oratorical flames next week. And the arsonists of oratory will be 144 state senators and representatives dealing with a whole series of heat-generating issues. Although the neighborhood looks better than average middle class, the man who lives in that big White House over there, Governor John McKithen, has money problems.
Krieger's beat, the news of the day, but he had fun assignments too. He chided longtime Saints linebacker Joe Fetterspiel about getting his hair cut in a salon.
Well, shoot, I'd much rather come here and have them work on my hair than some old man rubbing greasy stuff in my hair.
And we only used to
I'm not knocking barbershops.
Right, there's some word that you're going to play this year without a helmet, so you don't mess up the hairdo, is that right?
Right, I got some of that spray there that'll just take care of everything.
But WVUE always had serious news covered.
Arnold Porsche, News Scene 8, Grand Isle. Paul Amos, News Scene 8.
Each police officer will be evaluated, and if any recommendations are in order, those recommendations will be made.
The production was simple, but the writing was often edgy and sometimes comical.
Who knows? When the fat cops really get into this program, they might find that pressing a 250-pound barbell might be a lot easier than they think. This is Larry Lunsford, News Scene 8.
Saper's cleanup campaign may give birth to a new movement in New Orleans, bum power. Now that may sound ridiculous, but
Tim O'Brien, a New Yorker, was weekend anchor at WVUE in 1975 and later became a correspondent for ABC News for more than 20 years. The stories these reporters covered prepared them for anything.
The Howard Johnson shootout with Mark Essex, I was there for that. Took a lot of gunfire that night. I was here for the Ralt Center fire. Scenes that stay with me forever. Of these women in a beauty shop jumping from the 15th floor of a building because there was no way out.
Chapman credits Alec Gifford with stretching the limits of television in those days.
He's the guy who had the foresight to roll a live camera out the door and put a steel plate on it so he could show people what was happening at the Howard Johnson's shootout when Mark Essex was firing in all directions.
Gifford's band of reporters seemed to have it all, with one exception for a while.
The only thing that Alec wouldn't do at that particular time was he wouldn't hire a woman, because he said that women had no place in the news business. And that was his mantra. And of course that mantra changed after a while.
He hired both Lee Stevenson.
A national research firm could be brought in to study the city's hotel situation. He says he's sure that down the road New Orleans will need more hotel rooms, but we need to plan for them now.
And Lynn Ganser, who would go on to become Channel 8's first female anchor.
Officer May said Marcello told her she would not be a hustler, because a hustler goes out with anyone and she'd be going out with his friends. But he made a point of saying that this is a business, that people are giving us money, and so we've got to make them feel good. Lynn Ganser, News Scene 8. Ellen Burstein, News Scene 8.
Women found a place in what was once an all-male newsroom. Another push for equal rights won.
To get New Orleans to support Free Southern Theater has proved a difficult problem.
And remember Fernell Chapman, who fought just to get on the air? He became the noon anchor at WVUE a few years later, the first African-American anchorman in the state.
The audience here grew because people wanted to see a black man on television. The African-American community yearned for that.
Chapman went to L.A. as a newsman, where he spent 35 years before he retired in 2008.
That's it for this Saturday night. Thanks for having us in.
Others followed the trail he blazed, like Norman Robinson.
It was in this area of City Park Sunday evening, just after dusk, that Mrs. Tyler says she, her husband, and two friends noticed what appeared at the time to be two ghosts.
I saw two clowns coming down this way. Then they went to the car and they came back.
How do you know it was the Klan?
Because when I got up on the cart and had KKK across the shirt.
And so many of us who came to Channel 8 for opportunity are still covering news for WVUE.
I look at, television in New Orleans today with great pride. Look at what's happened. This is normal now. It should have been back then, but I feel I had some part in bringing this about, and I'm very prideful about that.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Zabrecki, and I'm a professional meteorologist.
In 1978, a young meteorologist from Hammond, Indiana, took a chance at a job at WVUE.
Summer days drifting away to other summer nights.
The year was 1978. Grease was a box office success.
Tell me more, like does he have a car?
The Bee Gees skyrocketed to #1 on Billboard charts. And this is what New Orleans looked like when Chief Meteorologist Bob Breck relocated his wife and kids here from Dayton, Ohio.
I was working 7 days a week up in Dayton, Ohio on radio and TV. I had no days off.
A new opportunity, double the pay, in a place that seemed foreign.
There were a couple of things I knew about the city. One, the Superdome. Everybody, when the Superdome opened in 75, I came in 78, it was like that was, they got the Saints.
The Hammond, Indiana native was the new meteorologist at WVUE TV, filling a position vacated by weather icon Nash Roberts, the station general manager's words of caution.
You can't be like him. There can never be another him. You have to be you. And that's what he encouraged me to be a little different.
Bob took his advice.
I remember when he first started in this city with those loud plaid suits, he garnered everybody's attention. I said, I got to hear what this guy has to say. Anyone who has the chutzpah to dress like that has to be a very interesting person.
He got so good that everybody went to talking about it.
In the early days, Bob's stunts on the sets were legendary, sometimes defying logic. He was determined to make his mark.
When I first came, I thought, well, hey, everybody's going to love Bob Breck, but that was not the case. And after 2 years, the consultant said, this guy's not going to make it.
Well, this is a serious weather event, no question about it. We have a tornado watch until 11 o'clock.
It took a good 8 to 10 years before I did know, it's starting to catch on.
You can trust him.
got a trusting face.
Looks wide. This is what we have to avoid.
He caught on like wildfire. In the worst of times, Bob became the calm in the midst of countless storms.
This thing is starting to make this curve towards the north.
Many times Bob Breck would see things others didn't see, and that would kind of like put us on alert if we really needed to do anything,
Bob's philosophy:
we've been through this before, we'll get you through it again. And that's what I've tried to capture, is that authoritativeness, yet, hey, I'm Dad, I'll take care of you kids. We know how to get through this. I want to update you with the radar because we do have a lot of weather coming in to the city.
No matter what the weather emergency.
The question is, when will the showers and thunderstorms get here?
Through 6 New Orleans mayors and a transformation of the skyline, from wide lapels to tailored suits, to countless school talks and hundreds of hours of community service, Bob's been here for viewers, and viewers are there for him.
A sorrowful time was when Paula died, but I'll never forget what our general manager said when I met Brenda, and she said, or he said, "Brenda, thank you for giving us Bob back." And I think there are these dips in your lives that you just are going to have to get through.
And through his recent public battle with prostate cancer, Bob was still Bob.
Don't go changing to try and please me.
When Bob Breck came to New Orleans, Billy Joel's hit Just the Way You Are was one of Billboard's top 10. Years later, it's fitting for the little guy.
I don't care if you're down, Bob's gonna lift you up. That's the type of fella Bob is.
Who's become larger than life in South Louisiana.
I want you just the way you are.
Why do the people of New Orleans turn to News Scene 8?
I just prefer Allie Gifford over the other two stations.
Yes, they're more informative and I think they're more organized. Because the people seem to be much nicer when talking about the news. And I like Allie Gifford because he seems to be much nicer. I don't know, just like Channel 8 News.
News Scene 8 with Allie Gifford, Buddy Diliberto, and Nash Roberts, weeknights at 6 and 11.
More of what New Orleans is than the other stations.
In the final analysis, we all have to live and work together.
Ernest Morial began the decade of the 80s as the city's first African-American mayor.
My primary responsibility to every person in Louisiana is to keep this budget in balance.
Former Governor Edwin Edwards won his third term in office in that decade. The second span of the Crescent City Connection wasn't finished. The World's Fair and the oil industry in the 80s turned out to be a bust.
Tonight, the state legislature and the budget. More aid for Central America, and the Strawberry Festival survives the flood.
This is News Scene 8.
WVUE was building on a new era of leadership in the 80s with a new slate of anchors and reporters.
Reputed mafia boss Carlos Marcello is spending his third night in prison.
Margaret Dubuisson joined the team in 1983.
I was a radio reporter. I was very young, just right out of college, and working for WGSO radio. But I was as green as an apple. I mean, I really didn't have a lot of experience. Somebody took a chance on me, and I kind of earned my chops over there in radio.
Within months, she was anchoring the evening news.
And I'll never forget sitting next to Richard Anderson, and my hands were trembling, and he patted my hand and he said, "Just take a deep breath and do what you do."
If you have information, please call Crime Stoppers 822-1111. You do not have to give your name.
Ron Hunter
you could be eligible
was the news director, and he anchored his own show as well.
1 hour and 18 minutes after the plane went down.
This was Hunter on July 9th, 1982, the day the Pan Am flight crashed in Kenner.
Anybody who does not need to be here, don't come this way.
Logan Banks was one of the reporters covering the disaster.
All right, Logan, let me repeat just for the benefit of those of you who could not understand the man.
Many reporters, producers, and photographers under Gifford's leadership moved on. A new crop of reporters came on board.
Lori Kilgore, News Scene 8 at Criminal Court.
Glenn Cooper, News Scene 8.
Jim Bailey, News Scene 8.
Susan Rook, News Scene 8.
Tom Stringfellow, Channel 8 News at Federal Court.
Mary Lou McCall, News Scene 8.
Kim Holden was an intern. They had just lots of really good, experienced people in the background.
Away for him in the outfield.
Mets outfielder Ron Swoboda, known for his famous catch in the 1969 World Series, joined Channel 8 as sports anchor in 1981.
We covered sports. We covered the Saints. I had never been anywhere where football was as sacrosanct as it was in New Orleans, where one subject cut across every economic, social, gender line like football, like the Saints.
The mayor and the city council, as well as the governor, have committed ourselves to do all that we can to see that the Saints football franchise remains within the city and remains as a tenant within the Louisiana Superdome.
It was 1985 when Tom Benson bought the New Orleans Saints, blocking efforts by other prospective investors to move the franchise.
And they were, struggling to be something back then.
2 years later, the team made its first playoff appearance.
This is WVUE, Channel 8.
Tonight, it's the award-winning news team of Margaret Dubuisson, Warren Bell, Ron Swoboda with sports, and Bob Breck with weather.
Tonight, New Orleans police say they still have very few clues.
When I came back in '87, Warren Bell was hired, and Warren Bell was an interesting character because he was smart as you could be. He had had some issues earlier in his life that, some demons he had taken care of.
The first group ever to record that music was this one, the original Dixieland Jazz Band from New Orleans.
What I remember most is that at a time in my life where I wasn't sure I'd ever be given a chance to return to the anchor desk, because my fall from grace was very public, my encounter with substance abuse and being arrested as a result of that.
Finally tonight, Margaret, here's a question for you. Do you like
General manager named Steve Malden gave me a chance to come back to work in television news. And I remember saying, why? And he said, because I've watched you and you have talent to offer, and we're trying to do something very different here.
Here was one of these upper air disturbances parked right in here today. There you see it circulate.
Bob Breck was a constant at the weather maps during that decade.
And WVUE was doing good, strong news back then. That's when they were running the news campaign that we had back then was, there goes that news van again, because we were everywhere in the New Orleans market. We were all over the place.
There's that news van again. There goes that news van again, and News Scene 8. People still revert to that, and I hear that mentioned to this day. So I guess that was a very successful campaign that really imprinted on people's minds.
I'm Margaret Dubuisson. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening. Now we leave you with a big thumbs up from some friends down in the French Quarter.
We were doing some innovative, creative, promotional stuff here that the other stations, I think, were a little reluctant to try, but it gave us a chance to, I guess, make sure the audience knew a little bit more about us as people, and it gave them a chance to emphasize that, hey, the people we've got on your team are literally from your backyard.
This is Neighbors at 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Dubuisson.
Hello, neighbors. Welcome to Neighbors at 5. I'm Joe Giordino.
The news in your neighborhood was literally that every day the news anchor team was in a different location. And so a lot of times you had backdrops just for the purpose of having a backdrop. It had no relevance to really anything of any kind of substance.
Even the WVUE courtyard was not off limits.
Well, Richard, little ones this age, even kids.
Margaret Dubuisson with her firstborn Grant in manufactured snow.
That's because it hasn't snowed here since '73. Did you want to say something?
The promotions campaigns kept changing.
Well, we had a bunch of different 8s, depending on who the management was at the time. My least favorite was the 8 with the waves, because it looked like it was kind of sinking in the water.
That's because the ownership did too.
There was a lot of change and evolution during my tenure here. I lost track of how many different news directors, general managers, and owners there were.
Despite the constant changes, the emphasis at WVUE was always keeping viewers informed.
It was that commitment to doing good reporting, not just the occasional series or investigative piece, but on a day-to-day basis, we always tried to give it our best. And I think we always shone very well when there were the big stories, whether it was the fire down at the Cabildo, the fairgrounds fires, major stories, whether they were disasters or something else. I think there's always been a tradition here of not only covering it, but covering it very, very well.
Okay, hit the lights. Now here's our first stop in New Orleans. This is a Superdome coming up, and well, that's just a news van going by there.
Now here's Ethel and the kids at Jackson Square. Isn't that nice? There's one of those news vans again. That's Ethel eating one of the bag nets. Now, we took a drive up to the state capitol for a day, and I got a real nice shot of that news van again. Billy, will you stop that? Now, there's Ethel.
When it comes to local coverage, there's more on News Scene 8.
There's that news van again.
The 90s in New Orleans began with a Super Bowl, number 24, the 49ers and the Broncos. The city with all of its charm and international destination.
Oh, we wanted to have some fun, eat some Cajun food.
Well, now when I was a young boy.
Some say it's the beautiful weather. Others say it's the unique character of the city. Fact is, thousands of tourists chose New Orleans as their getaway this holiday weekend.
But by '94, our murder rate broke records and made national headlines.
Guns of war on the streets of home. In this case, police believe 2 or 3 gunmen sprayed this courtyard with 20 to 30 rounds from an AK-47.
In the 90s, WVUE traded typewriters for computers.
Joe Giordina, News 8 New Orleans tonight.
And made changes in its staff and its ownership.
WVUE, the one to watch. This is News 8 with Margaret Dubuisson, John Snell.
Well, people thought I was crazy. They did, because I left that other place.
The mayor himself has raised the political stakes when it comes to crime.
Anchor John Snell joined the Channel 8 staff in 1994.
That was when we started to really bring in a lot of familiar faces from the market. New Orleans likes familiar faces. We don't like a lot of change here. John Snell was the lead anchor across town, and we brought him in.
Busan had already brought in George Ryan.
People snapping up properties and removing them.
George matched up with Robin Cohen, who was also an outstanding news personality.
This isn't the first time fire is raced through Shannon's hardware. It happened once before in the late 1800s.
The thing that struck me about Channel 8 was how competent people were. It was a really good staff that, frankly, was in need of some direction.
The irony of all this is that fishermen were actually among the first supporters of these projects.
John's first challenge began before he even anchored his first newscast at WVUE. Almost 26 years after WVUE's first big switch, we did it again.
I don't think that you can exaggerate what a dramatic point that was in the station's history.
On January 1st, 1996, WVUE became a Fox affiliate.
What took you so long?
In the short term, very negative effects, but we, like I say, we climbed out of it.
WVUE, New Orleans. This is Fox Music.
The station had to change its name and logo again.
Now, Fox News at 10.
It changed the color scheme and changed the logo and changed the way we signed out at night and how you signed off at the end of a report.
Suddenly, all of the shows are different. And people couldn't find us. People would stop me on the street and say, "You work at Fox 38." No, it's not Fox 38 anymore.
But we saw opportunity in Fox that was really good. The first opportunity was giving people an alternative and a new time at 9 o'clock to watch the news.
We did the 9 o'clock news out of nowhere. Just, all of a sudden there's this newscast at an odd time that had not been done before. So it took a little faith, kind of a leap of faith, to believe that you could get people to come to that.
By 1998, we landed on the Fox 8 brand.
This is Fox 8 News.
Good evening. Tempers flared tonight as parents voiced.
We had a new anchor team.
We found this incredible talent out of Baton Rouge and said, we got to bring her in and put you with John, and the rest is history.
Tonight, the city of New Orleans started a $500,000 campaign to push the tax.
I joined the WVUE staff as a weekend anchor in 1996 and was promoted to the main anchor duties in 1999. Floyd's lost some of its strength, but no one is letting their guard down. During my 17 years here, I've had a front row seat to some of the most incredible stories in New Orleans. From the somber times that touched our hearts.
Sheriff, please know
that your family is in good hands.
To celebrating the culture of the city and what makes it unique. I've traveled to Rome for canonization. St. Catherine Drexel was not flogged or stoned because of her faith, but was ostracized because of the people she chose to help. And to the White House to interview a president. If you could do anything differently in this recovery effort, what would it be?
Well, if I could do anything differently, I would have had a better coordinated response.
Many of the reporters on staff today have been with the station for nearly 20 years, too, and most are locals.
We have a lot of people that grew up here who know the place. We live here, and we're as vested in the community as anybody else.
Edwards' decision could affect more than just his ability to sway influence with
like Bonneville and LSU grad Rob Masson.
It's a tale of two schools this New Year's Eve.
The additional stop signs will take some getting used to.
Sabrina Wilson, a Grace King and Loyola alum.
Women can no longer be charged more than men for health insurance.
Prosecutors called Lauren Acosta to the stand.
Chalmette High and UNO grad Natasha Robin.
He says that because every housing unit that comes down will be replaced.
If you're planning to come to Jazz Fest this year, you'll be happy to know the portalets are all in place.
And Kim Holden, the Dominican and Loyola grad, started behind the scenes as an intern in 1988 and worked her way up to newscast producer. But in 1994,
it's been home away from home for thousands of young travelers for more than a century.
She moved in front of the camera.
This building did have a sign posted on it warning firefighters it was dangerous to enter.
Now in her 25th year with the station, she anchored the morning news and now is an evening news anchor.
The only way to describe the tragedy is pure carnage.
When people are together that long and have a chance to know and understand each other, when breaking news is happening, because that's the most critical time.
And John, among the injured here at
that synergy is so outstanding to be able to see in action.
It's ball license we can go right now.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. New Orleans learned that the hard way when a named storm in the Caribbean turned into a monster.
It's going to keep wobbling, and I don't see a way that we're going to avoid the really destructive winds.
A lot of people are hunkering down tonight. August 29th, 2005. We knew it would be bad.
Just starting to drizzle out here.
As we were all dispatched to locations in the metro area.
Rob Masson has been at the Emergency Operations Center in Jefferson. Rob?
Well, John, as you can see, it's still a light drizzle out here.
We didn't know we were about to witness the most dramatic event in the city since Bienville founded it.
This storm continues its march towards the coast.
Katrina set off a chain of destruction too big to fathom. Too horrible to be real. This hurricane was different, pushing levees to their limits and unleashing water strong enough to bring a city to its knees in its suffering.
We'll get you through this night. Believe me, we will get through this storm. We've been through many others. This is the worst that we probably will have to endure. Y'all stay safe. We'll try and get back to you as soon as I can from a safer part of Jefferson Parish. And again, good luck. Good night.
Our broadcast station, on the air for more than half a century, went dark in one night. Water took over thousands of homes. And it took over Fox 8. Decades of history in tape libraries floated on several feet of storm surge. Water destroyed WVUE's transmitters.
This is right up against the transmitter building. The boat is actually, I don't know if you can see it, it's actually sitting on top of our air conditioning units, upside down.
We're kind of cramped.
Emmis Communications, the owners of Fox 8 at the time, moved the staff headquarters to Mobile to piggyback a broadcast signal from our sister station, WALA.
Good evening, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Nancy Parker. Crammed into a garage, we delivered coverage from here to North Louisiana and states beyond.
And I am standing just a few hundred yards from the Gulf of Mexico. Behind me, there is what is just a shell of a home.
Katrina couldn't stop the flow of information when viewers needed it most. 3 months later,
This is our newsroom, and everybody has their little desk, no privacy.
we moved home into a primitive gutted space in our flood-ravaged station on South Jeff Davis. 9 months after the storm, this is how far we'd come. And this is the newsroom now. What are you guys working on?
Fire alarm and the electric.
Cool. And you know what? We have glass in the newsroom for the first time in a long time that actually shuts us off from South Jeff Davis Parkway. And all around us, tens of thousands of Katrina victims were rebuilding too, erasing Katrina's scars as survivors.
Turn your wheels up a little more, right there.
On Prince Drive in Chalmette, a small island of progress in a sea of emptiness.
It's the first thing going on in this whole neighborhood.
But the mother of all rebuilds officially gave the city its winning spirit back.
The celebration started early, and before long, nothing but a sea of black and gold.
I came out here to see the Saints.
September 25th, 2006, the Superdome reopened.
We're home. It's beautiful.
90 seconds into the Saints matchup against rivals Atlanta, special teams player Steve Gleason blocked a punt that led to a Saints touchdown.
This night belongs to the people of New Orleans. They deserve something.
WVUE continued its comeback, and in July of 2008, a new era.
Great day. I didn't think it would get here. I've been waiting.
Saints owner Tom Benson's Louisiana media company purchased Fox 8.
This is going to be very exciting for all of us.
We were fortunate here to be able to bring this station to New Orleans as a locally owned station.
And we're growing, too. Fox 8 expanded to new downtown studios. Benson's leadership marked positive change during an incredible run of events in the city.
Where to, sir?
My new home.
Where's that?
Fox 8.
Lee Zurich joined the team for a dynamic era of investigations.
Why won't you answer our questions, Sheriff Hingle?
Well, one thing, I don't like you.
Stories of corruption by former Plaquemines Parish President Jeff Hingle ended with Hingle in federal prison. There was a quest to make stewards of public money accountable, like former St. Tammany Parish Coroner Peter Galvin and Jim Bridger, the former general manager of the Public Belt Railroad.
Mr. Bridger, we're hoping to get an interview with you.
No, thanks, Lee.
Lee Zurich, how are you? We just have some questions. All right, we have some questions for you, Mr. Bennett.
Zurich's investigations led him to expose questionable spending and wrongdoing.
And you think it's okay for the public to pay for that?
You think it's not?
Fox 8 covered stories that changed lives.
We started with some problems with the ACs.
We broke the story of the first Louisiana case of Chinese drywall, the start of years of litigation and heartache for homeowners.
He said, I'm going to tell you something that might break your heart. Everything has to come out. Back down to the studs.
Then, the nation's worst offshore oil spill, April 20th of 2010. 11 workers died on BP's Deepwater Horizon drilling rig.
We're about 4.5 miles away from the site where the actual spill is. This is more of what I really expected to see as far as an oil slick is concerned. This very inky black color, you can really see it getting kicked up in the wake from the ship.
Committed to finding answers on what this area could expect.
This isn't exactly the South Louisiana marsh, but
no.
Maybe the closest thing you've got.
Right. This was one of the few spots that they considered a marsh.
Fox 8's John Snell traveled to Alaska to report on lessons learned in the Exxon Valdez disaster.
Farther up the coast, there are still more signs of the Ixtog effects.
And he went to Mexico, to the site of the Ixtop blowout in 1979.
Even in Mexico, the recovery is not complete.
Our cameras took viewers below the Gulf surface to see how the oil spill affected life there. And we saw new land being shaped in the fight to rebuild the coast.
What's striking about this, as I walk across little bits of Iowa and Montana that have formed now a new part of Louisiana, is that this was never supposed to happen here.
I'm not an environmentalist. I'm a reporter who does stories about whether we can live here.
We tugged at heartstrings as a local hero faced the toughest challenge of his life.
It doesn't look like conditions are going to ease up anytime soon.
The wind is just relentless here at the lower end of Lafourche Parish. You wouldn't think that Isaac has been downgraded to a tropical storm.
The stretch from Braithwaite to the White Ditch area, and it's flooded from levee to levee.
And the flood of heartache that followed Isaac.
During the storm, some tombs floated across the road and landed up on the levee. Others floated onto people's properties.
This is... all you can say is, oh my God.
Tom and Gail Benson made a slam dunk. buying and remaking a winning basketball team. The Pelicans were born.
This is an exciting time for me, my family, but mainly for all of us in this city.
Nationally known sports great Fred Hickman joined our team at WVUE in 2011, and the legendary voice of the Saints, Jim Henderson, now calls our station home.
I get reunited with a lot of good friends as well, you among them.
Looks in his direction.
We captured the biggest victory the city had ever seen. The Saints brought home the Lombardi Trophy.
And riding on a Bacchus float, coming into view, Drew Brees and his offensive line.
From Super Bowl parades,
Mardi Gras 2013 here at Louisiana Avenue in St. Charles,
to the Mardi Gras variety.
Walking down St. Charles Avenue, you never know what sights and sounds you might find.
St. Augustine Band is one of the best bands. People look forward to you guys.
I'm in the random outfit I picked out at 7:30 this morning.
WVUE embraced the community in fun times and in times when the community needed us most.
How about this? $1,056,495 raised here.
Our station helps light up City Park during the cherished holiday tradition of celebration in the Oaks. New technology allowed us to debut a new network.
Bounce, TV our way.
We work with some of the city's best journalists at The Lens.
Don't miss a multimedia exclusive investigation.
And now a recent exciting partnership with NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Over the last 5 years alone, we've been one of the most honored TV stations in the country, winning 19 national awards, including the prestigious Columbia University Alfred I. DuPont Award, known as the Pulitzer Prize of Broadcasting.
It's an honor to work with a team that can pull that off. You know, we were given good tools. We were given the funding, to be honest with you, to go out and do this right.
And we mark our 60th anniversary with the 2013 National Edward R. Murrow Award for overall excellence, the greatest honor a station can be given. What will the next 60 years bring? For WVUE, there are endless possibilities in a city with so many amazing stories to tell. Thanks for watching.
Fox 8, winner of the National Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence, is proudly locally owned.
I love to spend my time